Hey guys, how's it going? Today we'll be touring my office, the John Deere 300G excavator. We'll be showing you all the basic parts, the engine, and anything else you guys want to see. Just put it in the comments down below. All right, let's go. So at the front here, we'll start at the business end, called the bucket, and this little grappler on the front here, which is called the thumb. It's called the thumb because, well, it looks like your thumb. You see these teeth on the front here looking pretty mean. They last a pretty long time. Sometimes you got to get under there and change them out. Once they start to wear down, you can see this one here starting to get a little worn. But they last quite a while. You can go a couple years depending on how much you're using the machine. Let's come around the back here. You can see what we call the wedge here. That's pretty much what latches the bucket to the knuckle on the back here. It's hydraulically actuated, so you can see this part right here will actually slide back, which will allow the knuckle to flip upwards, and you can attach a different bucket or implement on if you really want to. You can see it's spring loaded in there. Big beefy springs keep the wedge there, keep everybody safe so no buckets are flying around landing on top of anybody. That would not be a good thing. You can see the big hydraulic ram going up here. That's your bucket cylinder, which curls the bucket in and out. And your thumb cylinder, a little bit smaller because you don't need quite as much pressure for that. A thumb is actually a great thing to have. It makes the machine so much more versatile. Lets you manipulate objects and all that fun stuff. This part right here has a bunch of different names. I like to call it the stick because it really just looks like a big metal stick, funny enough. And the bigger part that it's attached to is called the arm or the boom. You see that big cylinder way up there? That's one of the biggest cylinders on the machine. It's about the same size as the boom cylinders here. There's a lot of power going through there. And these are the tracks here. If you've ever seen like a tank tread or like a military vehicle with treads, they're fairly similar. They don't have suspension though, like a tank tread would, just to give you a little bit more stability on ground, because if they had suspension and you were lifting up a heavy load, that could be bad because you could not be very stable and you might topple over if you have suspension travel on these tracks. So may not be as comfortable, but it keeps you safer on not as stable ground. You can see they ride over top of these rollers here. And then there is about 10 of them that are underneath. But like I said, they have no suspension travel. They're all solid. Come back here, we can see the final drive. This is actually what drives the tracks here. There's one on each side. They are hydraulic motors. If we come into our first access panel here, this is the hydraulic pump, which drives all the hydraulic rams and motors on the machine. So the engine actually does not actually drive the machine. All it drives is this hydraulic pump. This is the hydraulic tank itself here, which holds all the fluid. This is the sight glass right here, which tells you how much fluid is in the tank. When you start the machine and it's in this configuration right here, it should be within these two lines right here. Since we have the machine kind of curled up a little bit, the hydraulic fluid is actually in those pistons right now, so it's not in the tank. So right now it's reading a bit low, but that's fine because we're not in this position right here where you would check it. Various filters for your hydraulic oil. Some up there as well. This is the preheater for cold days. Living up here in Canada, it gets a little nippy in the winter. So you can set this inside the cab with a specific time or day, and it's diesel powered, so it'll cycle in some diesel into the pump. It's basically like a mini jet engine, and it heats up the coolant and circulates it through the engine. So when you go to fire it up in the morning, it's nice and warm for you already. Pretty handy. Close this up. Come around the back here. This right here actually is the counterweight. Everything from here back is solid lead. You can listen here if I knock on it. It is solid. There's about 10 tons of lead right there holding this thing on the ground. So when you got a load stretched out way out in front of you there, this is what's going to keep you from toppling over. Plus the weight of the machine itself is going to keep you from falling over as well. This is underneath the engine bay here. If there's anything leaking, which you'd be checking for in your daily checks, you're most likely going to see it dripping under here. You can see the size of these bolts. Like, look at my hand next to this bolt. This is what's holding the counterweight on. Pretty beefy stuff. You can see on the side here, that's where those hydraulic motors are for the final drives for your tracks. And under here, you can see your swing gear for your full 360-degree motion where you can swing the cab around. All right, we'll come around the side here. The tracks are the same on both sides, pretty much. Get this door out of the way. We'll go into the cab last. And we'll open up this guy. So in here, you got your big ol' air filter. This little guy here is what you use to check and see if there's a bit of dust in there. There's a little bit in there. I work around a lot of dusty material, so it gets clogged up pretty quick. So you check that every morning, make sure you're not clogged up. Fire extinguisher, pretty obvious. This right here is our master power switch. So having this on, it's on right now, but if you switch it off, it cuts off power to the entire machine. So basically you're isolating the battery from this one switch. So if you're doing any maintenance work, you would flip that off, take this right out, and you would lock this up, because as long as this isn't in there, the machine cannot power up, cannot move, cannot do anything until this is on. Keeps everybody safe. And this right here is actually a switch which changes the modes of how the machine operates on the inside. So it'll actually reverse your controls if you switch this machine around. So it's a good prank to play on somebody if you switch this around on somebody and they're not expecting it. And this is our GPS antenna for our GPS inside the machine, which allows us to get our projects done at a pretty precise and efficient manner. And right here is basically your checks, what you would do at certain hours. So you can see right here all these different intervals of hours, what you would do. A lot of stuff there. And it also shows you all the grease points on the machine. Oh, first we'll go in here. You can see all the radiators and coolers. I believe this one here is hydraulic oil. This is your AC condenser. And behind it is your two big coolant radiators. Two batteries, because you're running on 24 volts. Most diesel powered equipment does. Washer fluid. All right, so let's climb on up and look at the engine there. This is your hydraulic fill diesel. This is where you would let go of the pressure in case you were doing some hydraulic work and you didn't nothing. That's the pressure you'd release, so nothing surprises you or bursts out at you when you're taking off a line or something like that. That's your air intake right there. It goes down to that filter we just saw. Swing gear down there. That's your oil check dipstick for the swing gear oil. Has its own oil supply. You can see all the hoses going up to the far end there, the business end for the bucket. All right, let's get these open. All right, there she is, boys. Not too entirely sure on the horsepower ratings for this specific engine. If you guys really want to know, just put it down in the comments below and I'll answer you to the best of my ability. I'll get some information for you. This is your coolant surge tank. Oil dipstick right there. Oil fill right there. And this actually has a diesel exhaust fluid system as well. Most modern diesel engines will have them for environmental concerns and codes that they have to follow these days. Don't get me started. And yeah, it has a electric fan rather than an engine driven fan, and that allows it to spin in the opposite direction when it needs to blow out dust from the radiator. It's very handy to have, so you're not always getting out and blowing out a clogged radiator. It actually does it automatically. Yeah, and that's pretty much all you can see in there. Big old turbocharger right there. Twin turbo. Heck yeah. All right, let's close this guy up. Pulling this latch back here. Alright, let's go back down to the cab. Oh, and right here is your controller for your preheat I was talking about earlier. It's where you can set your times and your schedule for the week so your machine's nice and warm when you come to it on those lovely minus 30 days Celsius. All right, this is the office. So right here are your controls for your tracks. For your driver's side track, for your passenger side track. But if your machine is spin around the other way, if your cab spin around the other way, these are reversed. So you got to keep that in mind on which direction the final drives are on. So right now we're facing forward. You can see the arrow over there saying that that's forward. So if we push these forward, we would be going in this direction right now. Pull these back, you're gonna go straight backwards. You push this one, your left side forward, it's gonna run this track right here forward, or reverse, vice versa. Same with the other side. But if you swing around the other way, these are reversed. So this is gonna be your right side and this is gonna be your left side. So it's just something you gotta pay attention to, but you get used to it fairly quickly. All right, so we'll start on the left here. This is your hydraulic lockout lever. If this is up, your hydraulics and everything aren't gonna work, but it's not gonna work anyway right now because the machine's not on. You get the idea. If it's down, you're active, the controls are gonna do their job. It's just for safety. So if you're sitting in here and you go to get out, this reminds you that you need to put this back into the lock position. So our left joystick does two functions. Forward will take the stick right there and it will swing out away from you. Bring it towards you, it will come towards you. And then left and right swings the entire cab around, left and right, full 360 degrees as many times as you want until you get dizzy. Then there's various buttons on the top here. These two aren't functional right now because we don't have the correct implement on for them to do anything. The bottom one, however, is your horn. All right, and then we'll go to the controls on the armrest here. We have the beeper cancel for your reverse beeper. So if you're going in reverse, you hit this button, it'll turn off that beeper just in case you're traveling a long distance and it's getting really annoying, which it can. You have your heated seat, really nice to have in -30. Not all machines have it, but I'm super glad that I do have it on this machine. This right here is the reverse light, the reverse headlight, I should say. It's right on the back here. If I can sneak around here. Right there. Right here is your automatic and manual reverse fan, like I was talking about earlier back there on the engine. The fan itself can reverse the blowout dust. Right now I have it on automatic mode, and you can set it in the computer there of the time interval you would like it to go off. So have it probably set for 20 minutes or something. Every 20 minutes it'll reverse itself and blow out all the dust. Or you can switch it over to the manual and just do it right there and then. So we'll keep that on auto for now. This is the beacon switch right here for the yellow beacon up on top of the cab right there. And this missile launch system, I'm just kidding. This is actually for your implement switch. That'll release the pin up on the bucket up there, which will let you let go of the bucket, and it'll be able to let you grab a new one like that one right there. But when you're not using it, that cover stays on so you don't lose any buckets by accident. All right, we'll go over to the right side. So the right side controller, pulling it towards you, raises the big arm and boom up into the air, pushing it down, lowers it down to the ground. Left curls the bucket towards you. Right curls the bucket away from you. This rocker switch right here is for your thumb. So bringing it down will bring the thumb closer to the bucket, which is like a grab motion, and pushing it up brings it away. These two buttons here aren't being used because we don't have the right attachments. Most of these would be used for jackhammers and stuff like that. So on the right side here, we have menu buttons for our computer system right here. We have our climate controls. This has AC. We have our radio controls. And we also have our throttle here as well. Most of the time you're going to be running on full blast. It has an auto idle system on here, which is what this is right here. If that's on and you're not moving any controls and you're just sitting here, after 10 seconds, it'll auto idle down to about 800 RPM and it'll sit there until you touch the controls again and it'll automatically idle itself back up. but most of the time you don't ever touch this while you're doing your normal work. Down here we have track speed, turtle, rabbit. If, you know, if it was the slowest rabbit in the world, I could understand that. And we have headlights here, full off. One would just be that one light that is over here. And two would be all the lights you got. There's two up here on top of the cab, the one down there. And there's also two up on the arm. You might be able to see it right there. There's one there and one on the other side as well. Right here we have our regen. That will set the machine into high idle and raise the exhaust temperature, and that'll burn out any soot that is within the exhaust system and keep it clean. This turns our implement on, so if this is off, our thumb won't work, but if it's on, our thumb will work. And we just have a nice USB plug right here. And this switch isn't used on this machine. This will be for a grapple or a jackhammer if you have one. That changes its function in some way. I've actually never used it, so I'm actually not too sure what it would be for. All right, we have our CB radio down here so I can keep in contact with my coworkers. Yeah, that's basically it for in here. You get all your warning stickers to keep you safe. Nothing too much back here. Got a remote for our other machine that we'll go through one day if you guys like. And yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. Step on out here. So that's pretty much it. That's my office where I do all my work. Maybe one day we'll get some videos of me doing my procedures and some work on the old wood pile here. But yeah, let me guys know if you guys want to see that. All right, take care, guys. Stay safe. Have a nice day.